Alright, hi everybody. My name's Amelia and welcome back to the channel. Oh my goodness. Okay, so as you saw, today I wanted to talk a little bit about my spiritual awakening, more or less. And the reason for this is because I've kind of hit this weird blockage on my channel where I want to talk about a lot of things, but I feel like some backstory is needed. So I feel like I need to share my spiritual awakening experience with you guys so that way everything else that I say from here on out makes sense. I know a lot of you have been interested in my tarot content and just asking questions about my spiritual hot takes and stuff like that, and I definitely plan to talk more about those things in the future. It's just I feel like something has changed within me. Okay, not even I know something has changed within me spiritually this year. It's been a very, very insane spiritual awakening type of year for me. And so much has shifted, and I was like, no, I gotta talk about it. If I don't talk about it, then it's gonna be difficult for me to continue on the channel talking about the things I want to discuss, especially because we're going to be getting into the weeds. It's going to be esoteric, very spiritual, very almost, I don't want to say a cult because I feel like a cult is a strange word, but very esoteric and very deep into the mysticism and all of that. So, I felt like I needed to share my journey so that way you guys know where I'm coming from, what my personal experience is, and why I want to dive into this stuff a lot more. So this video could be a little long. Definitely feel free to jump to the sections that you prefer. I will leave timestamps down at the bottom so you guys can kind of get a perspective. This is going to be filled with some ghost stories, tarot backstory, business stuff, and then of course the ultimate spiritual and awakening event that happened to me that really just kind of changed me. I don't have a better word for that. It just absolutely rocked my world. And it's something that was so profound and big that I am not who I was. And it's partially why I've been quiet online and on YouTube, why I've taken steps back in my tarot business even. And it's literally because this spiritual awakening has sort of changed me a lot and has me reevaluating reality. Living in the Matrix, kind of reevaluating reality, that kind of thing. So anyway, feel free to sit back, grab a cup of coffee or tea or whatever, have some snacks, do chores while you listen to me rant for who even knows how long, and let me go ahead and start telling you about my spiritual journey. So before we really dive into this, and I'll start a couple years ago, because I feel like the spiritual journey has been a slow and ongoing process for me, but it's ramped up this year, and so that's kind of why I'm making the video in the first place. I wanted to note really quick that something happened to me earlier this year, and I will get to that in this story time, but that's really what has changed me and what has really been the biggest part of my spiritual awakening. But in truth, all of this has been happening very gradually over a period of a few years, if not my whole lifetime. But I'm not going to give you my whole life story. I'm just going to kind of talk about tarot, ghost stories, stuff like that kind of pushed me into a more spiritual direction, and then explain how I got to where I am today. So I think my spiritual journey really started to pick up back in 2019. So in 2019, Pluto was conjunct my ascendant. It still kind of is, but it's not right on top of it. Once Pluto retrogrades back into Capricorn, I'll have a few more problems. But for a few years, Pluto has just been sitting directly on my ascendant, and now it's getting towards my natal Neptune because the two of them are also conjunct. So yeah, but the whole point is that back in 2019, I hit rock bottom. I was really struggling, brand new adult. I was 19 years old, trying to go to college, living on my own, all that stuff. It's a hard time for anybody, but I was especially struggling because I had moved away and lost a lot of my friends that I had. They were still friends with me, but I wasn't with them. Life was rough, okay? And I ended up discovering Harmony Nice on YouTube, and I got into Wicca and witchcraft, and ultimately that led me to tarot. When I first started tarot, I didn't know how it worked. I didn't really believe in it. I just tried it out because it seemed okay, sure, I'm on this spiritual journey of sorts, so let's try it out. And I was really blown away by how accurate the readings were, and how it was just a deck of cards, but it seemed to like know my whole life, and how the advice was actually genuinely very good. The only thing I think that made me mad at the time was I kept getting the Wheel of Fortune, like, trust that things will get better, just trust in the universe, and I hated the Wheel of Fortune, like, what goes around comes around, and I hated that because I really wanted to control my life, and I was, at the time, watching a lot of other people and influencers who talked about how you can control your life and change your situation, and I was very much struggling to change my situation. I was extremely depressed. Things were no bueno, okay? Well, that kind of got me into tarot, and eventually I memorized the cards. Eventually I started giving readings to other people. So that's kind of where my tarot origins start. So for a lot of you guys who followed me on the channel, I think I started posting about my tarot practice maybe in like 2021 or 2022, because I ended up launching Indie Tarot Mystique. I don't know which year, but it was one of those two. And Indie Tarot Mystique is my business where I provide readings for clients, but I didn't really talk about tarot and my journey into it much on camera until I opened that business, or at least until I moved back home from going to college and stuff. So I think the next thing that really launched me forward on my spiritual journey, because like the getting into tarot was one of them, because obviously tarot is a huge part of my spiritual practice. You guys see it a lot in my videos. Like I talk a lot about reading tarot, how to read tarot, talking about my tarot decks. Obviously that's a really, really big part of my practice. It's almost a central tenet. Tenet's a weird word, but a central practice in my practice. Oh, I'm away with words today. I'm an author. Did you guys know that? No, but anyway, the point is that tarot is like a really big part of my life. Anyhow, in 2021, I had to like look back at my videos and look back at photos to see what I was doing in life. But in 2021, I ended up watching this documentary on Netflix. It was not a very good documentary. If I had to rate it now, it wouldn't be a very good documentary. But at the time, it was a really nice one. It was my first, well, not my first, but like my newfound dip into nonfiction, and this was around the time when I really started to get into nonfiction. I watched this documentary, and I remember it vividly because I was watching the documentary, and I was sitting in my chair in my living room, and I felt, I don't know how to explain this, but I felt like a tingling in my forehead, like I had just opened Pandora's box, and all these revelations seemed to come to me, and it was like this surge of energy through my body, and I remember thinking oh my god, I think I just woke up. It was the weirdest feeling, in general, to be I think I have been sleeping, I think I have been not paying attention, and now I am awake. And that really thrust me into watching documentaries almost nightly, and I started reading nonfiction all the time. I started listening to more podcasts about worldly events because I will be honest, I was not educating myself about anything beyond my sphere in here where I live. So that really pushed me to start questioning things, looking into things, diving into conspiracies, that kind of thing. And for a while, I would watch a lot of conspiracy theorists, and it was sort of an entertaining thing, but it wasn't oh, I believe them. It was just kind of entertaining. And now, well, I think a lot of them have, there's something to be said about these conspiracies that they hold, and some of them anyway. For example, I don't believe in flat earth. Sorry guys, if you are a flat earther, I'm not. I don't know. I mean, that one just, you can prove that the earth has a curvature, anyway, but no, I really started looking into things, and I just kept being amazed by the things I was learning. It's really changed me and sort of separated me from a lot of people in my life who drift through life sort of in celebrity culture and consumerism, and certainly not on a spiritual path, or some people in my life are easily distracted, in my view, by religious dogma or by even New Age spirituality, which has sort of a toxic cult around it, which I have obviously spoken of on this channel and will continue to do so. But I felt like I was learning a lot. And I think that in a weird way contributed to my spiritual awakening, because I was seeking truth, and it did sort of wake me up in a weird way. And I didn't, and I still have issues with the words like people being awake and people being asleep. But it's the best verbiage that I have for what happened and for the fact that I just was so ignorant to so many things in our world that I am no longer ignorant to because now I know. That was all happening, and I was changing my lifestyle. I was getting myself out of depression. I was really renovating, remodeling my life and what it looks like. I was eating healthier. I was being more active. I was breaking down toxic patterns, addressing my own traumas, doing a lot of that inner work, that shadow work. It was the height of my journaling. I still do a lot of journaling. I just don't show it online as much anymore. But I was doing all of that. And I think it became sort of a spiritual practice for me. Like the journaling, the scrapbooking that I still do, but I do it a little bit differently now, and I don't do it as frequently as I was because other things have become part of my practice. But those were very spiritual things for me, and they were very important to my growth, and I think that's partially why I'm mentioning it here, and I really do feel like they changed me as a person. By 2022, something very, very odd happened. So this is one of my ghost stories, and I will probably make a whole video about ghost stories at some point because I've been wanting to, and to go into depth on this one in particular. But long story short, I was asleep. It was like a Friday night, I think, and or at least I woke up, I don't know, it was into Friday, whatever. And I had a dream about this person that I knew from elementary school. And this person went to my high school, but I didn't really see him very much. He attended my school, but I didn't really talk to him. He wasn't part of the same social circles as me, so I kind of forgot that he went to my school, and I only remembered him from elementary school because another friend of mine, she was very close to him in elementary school. Like, they were like best friends. Basically, I had this dream that he came to me and told me that he had died, and that he kind of explained the situation a little bit. He told me to talk to a specific person. Then he basically said that he had to go. And I was like, cool, I'll follow you. I'll go with you. And he was like, no, you can't really go where I'm going. And I was like, oh, okay. So that was the end of the dream. Very odd. I woke up. I told my my now husband about this, and it just kind of was forgotten. Well, a couple days later, a friend of mine called, and she was like, hey, do you remember so-and-so from school? And I remember my heart skipping a beat, and I was like, yes. Why are you suddenly mentioning this person? And she was like, oh, well, he died the other night. And that shook me so bad. That had me so, I don't know, just shaken. I remember at the time, it was one of the first, I had experiences prior to this moment where weird things would happen. I had my own ghost stories. I had my own weird intuitions about things. But this was one that really was so strong and obvious that it was really unsettling for me. And I had the opportunity to go to this person's funeral, but I ended up chickening out, and it's probably one of the things I regret the most. But I was a little intimidated and scared of, I guess, what had happened. And it's probably strange. I know you guys you watch my content, we share ideas about spirituality, and I think, at least if I had to guess, I come across as someone who's not afraid and totally I don't know, devoted and has no fear and no worry regarding my spirituality, but that's just simply not true. I am human, and at the time, and honestly for the last few years, I feel like I had leaned towards disbelief in most things, and slowly but surely I have been chipped away with this disbelief. It's been chipped away, and now I'm coming out with a new perspective on reality and our spiritual nature. Heck, 2019, I did not believe tarot worked. I didn't. I didn't believe in that. I was like, these people are crazy. And then I did it for myself, and I was like, okay, maybe there's something to this. And then I was like, no, I mean, I believe in ghosts, but I don't really know if people can actually communicate with them. If they can, I certainly can't. And then look what happened. And it's just been like that. Like, just name any belief. And I was like, no, that doesn't work. That can't be. And then lo and behold, it happens to me, and I'm proven wrong. So it's been an interesting journey. And again, that was one of those moments where I was like, oh my goodness, there is something here. And not only that, but I had other experiences that kind of led me to believe like something is pushing me down this path, and I need to keep exploring it. And oddly enough, it seems like when I let go of my need to control, when I allow spirit to work through me, things work out beautifully. And I'm always where I'm meant to be. Things are always good. And it's like I'm going with the current than fighting it rather than fighting against it. And that was one of those moments, a very pivotal moment for me, where I kind of realized I needed to allow things to flow. Eventually, doing that led me to my tarot business. And through that, I have met a lot of amazing people. I don't advertise for this business, as in I don't pay for advertisements for my tarot business, and I don't really advertise it much, like at all. I post about it on Instagram. Sometimes I mention it obviously on YouTube, and that's about the extent of it. I will post on the Instagram account, and I will talk on here, and I relinquish the rest up to the universe, up to spirit. And I leave it up to spirit to decide when I am in need, and I do not promote it otherwise. And one thing that this has taught me by using this approach and just letting things happen naturally is that when I am overwhelmed and overburdened with responsibility, I do not get people signing up for readings. It's when I am free and in a really good mental place that people sign up for readings, and I have quite a few at like one span of time, and then it seems like it slows down, and I always get readings when I need to, and I always meet the right people when I need to, it seems. So I don't do any advertising, and I don't like stress over clientele. I just let whatever happens, and that has also been a lesson for me, spiritually speaking. This is where I want to open up about what happened to me this year. I have filmed this video and this portion of this video several times because I still have that disbelief that is consistently being chiseled away at. And this is ultimately why I'm making this video. So if you are watching the big moment, if you're here right now listening to this part, this is something that has changed my life. And I will never be able to go back to how I was living before. And it is ultimately why I've taken this like period of silence and distance from YouTube and from a lot of things. So it's 2024. This past February, early March, I had the wildest experience. Like, I ended up just having this insane revelation, and it was something overcame me, we'll put it that way. So essentially, I ended up having a very, very spiritual experience where my body sort of coursed with energy and something else came through, and I was fighting it so much. Some people will call it possession. Some people will call it, I don't know, some hallucination. Others may call it channeling. And at this point, I lean towards channeling. Now, I want you guys to keep in mind, I did not believe in channeling. I had only ever seen one person channel. It was months and months and months beforehand. My husband and I were watching Beyond Belief with George Norrie, and there was an episode with Sheila Gillette, I think is her name, who channels Theo, and I was like, that is crazy. I think she's a grifter. That can't be real. Like, I did not believe it. I even had a discussion with a Christian friend of mine, because at the time, this Christian friend and I reconnected based on the fact that I kept seeing ghosts and I wanted to talk to her about it. And then also we just happened to reconnect. It was kind of like a divine timing sort of thing, and we just sort of started hanging out. It was very interesting, and I really value our friendship. So I'm really glad we were able to reconnect. But I remember talking to her about it and how creepy it was, and how I'm like, if it's real, that's got to be something dark and creepy. And also, I don't really think it's real, to be honest with you. I think she's just doing it for attention. I feel like the universe deals out lessons for stuff like that. Watch what you say, kids. Watch what you say. But no, I ended up having this absolutely insane experience, and I will probably go into more depth with it at some point someday. I'm still working through it. I think it's only been a few months since it happened, as in like 7 months maybe. I don't know how many months we are in with the year, but it's been a while. And it was insane. I remember panicking when it happened. I remember feeling that energy through my body, not knowing what to do with it. I remember being so confused because I didn't know what was real and what was no longer real. I didn't understand what I was seeing, and I was so scared. I, for a moment, thought we were living in the Matrix. And at the time, I had never seen the Matrix movie. I had never seen it. I'd heard people talk about the Matrix. My idea of it was like, okay, everything's a simulation. So it's like we're actually living in The Sims. Like, we're living in The Sims 4. We're not actually real. Like, somebody's playing a game or whatever. That's kind of what I thought when I thought of the Matrix, because I had never seen the movie. Actually, during that moment, my husband had asked the thing I was channeling, like, is life like the Matrix? And it had said no. And so that's also very interesting. But I really did think that everything I had believed was a lie. I suddenly knew that this world is not all that there is, and it's not even a piece. I mean, it's a very, very small piece, I suppose, of what is. And this world is sort of illusory in nature. And for a while, I didn't even believe that, like, I didn't know who I was. I didn't really believe that my husband was, honest and there for, like, as I had known him, like a good friend. I was like, oh my God, you're like Agent Smith, which again, at the time, I didn't even know who Agent Smith was. I had never heard of the name. I didn't have any context for The Matrix at all. But like, now that I have watched The Matrix, I'm talking to you about it, and hopefully a metaphor that you'll understand. But I literally thought that he was like I don't know, like I thought I was being enslaved by somebody and they were messing with me, and it was like this was a prison. Like the world was a prison that I was in, and I wasn't actually supposed to be here, if that makes sense. Like, this isn't real, and yeah, hopefully that makes sense. The point is, it was a very terrifying experience, and I was very scared and very resistant, and I don't remember, I was fading in and out constantly. So I was like here, and then I would like fade out, and it was like I was entering a dream world, and I was dreaming, and I could see all this stuff, and then I would come back and remember, oh, I'm Amelia. What just happened? And so I was like telling my husband to count the minutes, to tell me how long I'd been out, and I would tell him it had been years. I saw so many past lives. I'm fairly certain that's what they were now, and it was insane. I have a lot of thoughts about that, and I'm being vague for the sake of simplicity here, but I will probably talk about it at some point once I am a bit more comfortable with it. It was crazy, and I was panicking. I was really panicking. There was a moment when I had faded out, and I don't remember this, but my husband reminded me of it, or had mentioned it, that I had said, she's fighting it. Like, the channeled being said, she's fighting it. And so he had discussions with this thing, and he said that I was very calm whenever I was in that state, but when I came back to me, I would be freaking out. Well, eventually, he encouraged me to just relax and let it happen. And so I did. And this thing did not harm me. It was not painful. I know now that it was my oversoul or my higher self coming through. It did not hurt me. It was very kind. There was no reason to be afraid, but I was, because I was being ripped out of what I had viewed as my reality. And I remember one of the craziest moments was when my husband, had, I was like I guess I was talking, I don't really remember, but I was like talking to him, channeling, and he said, okay, bring her back now. And I came back, and I remember freaking out that he could do that. And I remember really thinking that, like, this world is messed up. He is some kind of, like, CIA agent or something, or, like, secret undercover service person that's, like, controlling me, and that nothing is real, and I live in some simulation. Like, I really genuinely thought that at one point, because I was like, how could you do that? But it was fine. We continued doing it. I was able to accept the channeling, let it come through, and then it was over. Just over. Like, not fading out, just done. It was crazy experience. We ended up pulling out my camera, and we filmed it immediately after. I don't know if I'll ever post that video, but I do have it. I filmed it right afterwards because I was like, that was insane. I've never experienced something that insane before in my life. And that was about it for a while. I was terrified. It shook me so bad. The nature of reality is just not what I thought it was. And reincarnation is not exactly how I thought it was. I definitely had, like, I kind of believed vaguely in reincarnation, but not fully until that moment. And then I saw reincarnation very differently. And as well as just the cosmology of our universe, it was not anything that I had believed. I hadn't really looked into Gnosticism or Buddhism, but those two things are probably the closest to what the cosmology has been described in my channelings. And long story short, I didn't touch like any spiritual topics for months. I was so scared and so shaken afterwards. I mean, during that moment, during my panic attack, one of the things I had said while I was panicking was, I don't want it to be me. I don't want to see this. I don't want to know. I want to go back to sleep. I just want to be asleep. I want to be quiet. I want it to have never happened to me. And I remember, and I said that in my panic. And, you know, as a person who is an author and writes fantasy books, you know, as an author, you can't help being like, oh yeah, I would love to be the main character. Like, I'm living in the main character's shoes as I'm writing, and, you know, like, being who wouldn't want to be the main character? It's why we love playing video games, because you're the hero, you're the main character. And it suddenly felt like I was a main character in some sort of story, and I was like, nope, I don't want it. I do not want it. And that really surprised me, because I figured, don't we all want to be the main character? But I guess not. I guess I actually don't. So that was shocking. I had a lot of inner work and shadow work to do based on that alone. Especially because I realized spirituality I was scared of it, and I didn't know that. I didn't really know that until then. Anyway, flash forward to roughly like May or so. It was after my wedding. I kind of had moments before my wedding where I was like drinking, and I was like, okay, something's weird. Something's going to come through if I keep drinking. And so I kind of had to cut back on alcohol for a while. I actually still haven't drank much alcohol since realizing that can put me in the same state, that if I lose control too much, I start to enter this dream world, and that's been fun, guys. I haven't drank much since, but that's something to consider. But then I ended up practicing. I did another session again, and I have since learned how to enter this channeling state through deep meditation. And I didn't even know that it was a deep meditation that I was doing. I just knew that I was laying down, relaxing, and just closing my eyes and calming myself. I didn't even know that it was a meditation, because all of the meditations I've ever done before were like guided meditations, or just like focusing on your breath, or like focusing on a certain mantra, and this is nothing like that. It's like falling asleep without falling asleep. And I've been able to enter this state, so I can do it pretty I wouldn't say easily, but I can do it now. I'm still working on that, but it is a channeling. So I realized that it was channeling because I started researching everything that this thing was saying, because I didn't believe my oversoul. I didn't believe my higher self. And even sometimes I'm still like, am I just faking it so well that I believe it? Like, am I just tricking myself? Like, I'm crazy, right? Again, you have to keep in mind that while I'm spiritual, and I have been spiritual, it sort of seems like I'm being pushed to keep diving deeper, because I had so many blockages and things that I just did not believe, and now I'm being forced to address it and know that it's real. I started listening to Sheila Gillette and Bashar, and I read the writings of Seth, and these are all channeled entities, and I started listening to what these people were saying about channeling, like those who were channelers, and I was like, they're saying the exact same things that mine said, and that was sort of validating because, again, I didn't know why it was saying these things, why it would have these opinions, but these people were saying the exact same thing, and I was like, that's insane, that's crazy. I started reading up more on Billy Carson. I started reading just tons of channeled texts, read the Emerald Tablets, and I'm still researching, but at this point I'm like, I know that I'm channeling my oversoul now. I know that I'm channeling my higher self, and I've dove into the cosmology of the universe, and the universe is a fractal holographic universe, and I'm seeing that now, and your thoughts really do shape your reality. Consciousness is God. Consciousness is everything. And like just these things that I've learned, and I would have never looked into them had it not happened to me. And I feel this urge to share it with people and to talk about each topic a bit more in depth than what I'm doing now. And I think I will, but it's definitely been something that's been tricky to discuss, just even out loud when I'm in my room by myself, but knowing that I'm on camera and, knowing that I'm talking to you guys. And it's just been strange because I've seen a lot of people online who talk about channeling, and they're very casual. They've accepted it. I feel like maybe I'm still trying to get used to it, especially because it completely shattered my belief systems. Not just about channeling in general, because I didn't believe in that and I thought everybody was faking it, but also it shattered a lot of my worldview and my religious or spiritual views and beliefs. So I've been working with that, and I've been trying to share it, and I think I will continue to share it. But I wanted you guys to know about this journey that I've been on, so you can see it for yourself, so you can sort of understand why I've been distant and just like MIA basically on YouTube. But also so that way you have some context for what I will be saying as we go on. And I have been filming the channeled experiences, so my husband encouraged me to do it, so I did. I will share with you guys a clip now before we close out this video, just so you can see it. But I will probably be using these like throughout my videos because I think my higher self is more eloquent than I am, and it, I think, conveys the messages a lot better than I do, and also you can hear kind of, I guess, the difference between us talking. I, for one, say a lot of ums, it does not, and you can hear it talking in a different way than what I have been. So, but yeah, just so you guys can see what it is, and yeah, when I come back, I'll close out the video.
Why is the meditative state so important to the remote viewing and channeling, really? Is it just a way to shut out the outside world and become more attuned with your inner self?
In part, yes. Perhaps the most important reason. I can think of several reasons, really, that the meditative state is important. But the most important is to be connected. While you are always connected to the universal consciousness, universal oneness, the God element, whatever you want to call it, whatever you think of it as, your source, our source. You are always connected to it, but you are not always tapped into it. Do you understand?
Yeah.
You're not always aware of it. To be in a meditative state, you become more aware of it. As you said, you can shut out the material realm. This material realm is mostly an illusion. Not quite, illusion is the wrong word, but it is not really here. It is, and it is not. This material realm is here for a purpose, but if you wish to manipulate the physical realm as you perceive it, you have to understand that it is something you can manipulate. If you perceive it as always physical, you will never be able to interact with it the way that you desire. If you are choosing to remote view or channel or move objects with your mind, create grand structures, speak to one another through your thoughts, none of those things can be obtained if you believe this world is only physical. So the meditative state allows you to create a separation from the physical realm, and that in turn will help you to navigate these other abilities, as you might call them. But in truth, there is no real separation. They are melded, intertwined, quite blended together. It is just the human consciousness doesn't seem to understand as easily that the two are so intertwined. The meditative state is sort of a bridge to this understanding. As for using a meditative state to remote view or channel, it is a good bridge. It is a good way to connect the two realms as you have separated them in your thoughts. But once they are one and the same realm, and you as in mass, you as a population, as a society, when you all understand that the physical realm is able to be manipulated to your will, then perhaps the meditative state will not be as essential. It will be essential for achieving higher states, for, again, bridging the gap between this world and whatever it is you wish to seek, but it is a bridge, a tool, a method of understanding the oneness.
So, are you saying that if an individual were proficient enough at meditating and could enter into the state easily enough, that eventually they wouldn't even have to meditate to do the things you've described?
Precisely.
Okay.
So there you have it. That was a snippet of one of our channeling sessions that I've been doing, and I don't know, it's been strange. It's been crazy. I'm definitely on this spiritual journey. One thing I want to point out before I close this video is just I don't want people to look at me like a spiritual leader by any means. One of the things I need you all to understand that I've learned is that we're all capable of doing this, and we can do this. We can connect with spirit. We are spiritual beings. We are consciousness. The God consciousness is within us, and you can do what I'm doing if you wanted, if you practice. It seems like the best way to practice is going into a meditative state, and having someone there to be with you, to help you, to guide you. So I'll talk about this more. If you guys have any questions, leave them all in the comments below, and I will try to answer them, whether via the comments or in a video. But I really had to get that off my chest, because spiritually I'm so different, and things have changed, and I'm still processing it, still working through it, but I think it's good, and I believe it's good, and I am going to continue sharing these thoughts, and hopefully in a bit more of like an organized video, an organized sense, so you guys can kind of, see it, learn what it has to say, all that stuff. So anyway, leave your comments down below, leave your questions down below, and again, thank you guys for watching today's video, and I will catch you next time.